Peace to the
Good
saints.
intro.
I appreciate you.
Good intro, brother.
So we are here with a gentleman sent me a DM. He said he wanted to discuss a couple topics around race, particularly the white race, why Nick Fuentes has gathered momentum, anti-white sentiment in the United States. And I said, come on down. We haven't had any background conversation or knowledge, so we're both getting to know each other in real time. So looking forward to having the conversation. I yield the floor for you to introduce yourself.
Yeah, my name is Chad Tyler. I'm originally from Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. I'm currently living out in Gilbert, Arizona. Um, yeah, I came across you from Jake Shields' podcast, and I like a lot of what you had to say, dude. A lot of it resonated with myself, and yeah, I got to give you your credit, man. I can only imagine having the platform that you have, the type of um, uh, criticism you must probably follow or come under speaking up for what's going on in the Middle East. And, I thought that was very honorable. And, regardless of, all the kind of criticism that you probably came under fire for doing so. But I had to give you your credit for that, man, because I don't think a lot of enough people with the platform that you have are speaking up on these issues.
I appreciate that, Chad. That means a lot. Now, did you catch me on Jake Shields the first time around or the second time around?
So I just watched the first time around, and I'm actually like an hour or about 45 minutes into the second one.
Yeah, because I'm trying to take over the white nationalist movement.
I love it. I love it, man. I love it.
I think it needs better leadership.
Yeah. I agree with you on that. Even though I agree with a lot of the things that Nick says, but the way he says it, because a lot of it is rage bait and trying to he has a comedic he has like comedic timing with all of it, but I think the way that he goes about saying a lot of things that he has to say is more harmful towards the movement than positive. So yeah, I love you being the new face of the white nationalist movement, brother.
Somebody's got to do it. I was just in the airport lounge earlier today, and obviously it's mostly business class folks, and there are two white guys across from me. And one white guy says to the other white guy, he says, Trump just decided that he's going to attack Iran. And so I say, well, what do you think of that? And they look up kind of like surprised, like, why is this guy talking to me? He says, yeah, I think it's a good idea. And so we end up in a discussion for maybe about 30 or so minutes about politics. And, one thing that I think has been, misrepresented by both sides are two important things among black people and white people. So you'll hear black people say, we built this country. It's like, well, if you mean in a literal sense of like doing the labor, yes, but the CEO of the company gets the credit, not the workers, right? The CEO put together a plan. The workers are always replaceable, whether they were enslaving you or enslaving the Native Americans. The architects of this nation were white Anglo-Saxon Protestants. So when you say you built it, you mean you were the labor, which is not necessarily an admirable place. Does that mean you have a stake in the country? Absolutely. So that's one thing that black folks are not quite accurate about. Then the other side, white folks, extraordinarily off basis. We're having a conversation. He says, you know what? We need to go back to a time when like all the races got along together. I was like, bro, what time was that? I don't know if that time ever existed. There have always been hiccups throughout the history, and we've always had some level of division. I think maybe the best I can think of, and I wasn't alive for it, maybe the 80s. I don't know, but I think that going backwards is not the way to go. We have to go forward. We need a better vision for the future. I yield the floor.
Yeah. Absolutely. So the whole thing with because I can't help but feel like a lot of this movement that is going on right now with that the Nick Fuentes and other guys that share these similar views. I can't help but feel like a lot of this is becoming so mainstream for some sort of, there's like another motive behind all of this, like it's almost like we're falling into a trap, like something that's like it's being intended to catch this amount of traction, for what interim goal that is, I'm still not sure. But but towards, like, who built this country and whatever, at the end of the day, dude, we're here together, and we can't be moving forward by increasing the division, because and if we are to do that, we are absolutely falling into their trap, because they're always trying to make it left versus right, black versus white. We know who the real enemies are, or who our real opponent is in all of this, and I do think that is Zionist. Am I allowed to say that? Can I say that?
Yeah, I think so. We'll say, yeah,
Disease.
yeah. Let's say the Z's. I think that'll keep us the safest, and just the fact that we have to tiptoe around that, I think, says enough. Now,
Absolutely.
let's talk before we even get there. I think there's some other things to consider. And one of my gripes as the leader of the white nationalist movement, one of my challenges with my competitors like Nerd Fuentes is, number one, he's not actually white, and
Right.
at least in my book. And
Sure.
then number two, as a white nationalist, I want to improve the quality of white people, man and woman, like the quality of the education, the skill set, the character, the mindset, so that we can then improve the quality of life, the income level, you know, health, and all of these metrics that matter in terms of day to day. And what I find missing with guys like Nerd Fuentes is that constantly, you can insult the blacks, you can insult the Z's, you can insult all these other groups, but you don't have any program for white men and white women. I yield the floor.
Yeah, like, what do you mean, like a program? What do you mean by that? Like,
I'll give you an example.
yeah.
So the reason that the United States has done so well, of course, part of it is mass enslavement. That's always going to help. Like if we start slavery back up, hopefully not on a racial basis, like, I'm gonna need me some. That's very helpful. But in addition, you had a group of people who were very innovative, very industrious, had a high savings rate, had reasonable character outside of enslavement, and were competent in sciences and all of the things that matter in terms of driving an economy, engineering, all of those things. We were leaders in that. When I say we, I'm talking about the United States as a collective, but largely that was the white Anglo-Saxon male. And then following World War II, we took on a lot of the German scientists, and that's where our intellectual capital was in terms of white people. But then slowly the quality of white people, namely white men, started to degrade, and then our intellectual capital, we got the Asians, whether they're Chinese or Indian, and then the white guys are at home being dominated by their women.
Mm.
So my thing is raise the white man back up to being a man first, and then
Yeah.
number two to being skilled and educated. We have to do this for all of the peoples in the
Yeah.
United States, but the whites are actually the majority. So if the majority is like destitute and illiterate, then the whole country is going to suffer. I yield the floor.
Yeah. So I guess what we'd have to, like, how do we do that? And we need strong leaders. We need strong leadership. We need to, it sucks because I feel like, as a white man, I feel like we are so openly, like, criticized and demonized in mainstream media. Our own politicians talk about how they're always pushing like this white supremacy. White men are like the biggest threat to America, and which is, I also think that's a big reason why Nick has gained this platform, this following that he has, is because a lot of this younger generation, especially under the Biden administration, like, we were so openly demonized. And if it were the other way around, talking about any other race, I can't imagine the repercussions for that. So I think that's why so many young white men have started following him, because he's like, he's removed the taboo about talking about all these certain things, and he doesn't go about it in the best way. Um, but we're always being told, the black community is in their position because of what we've done, and we're still getting, like slavery. Like, we didn't own the slaves, we didn't own any slaves. Like, it was a predominantly, like, a lot of the slave owners wore these small hats, or like they ran the transatlantic slave trade.
I don't buy that.
Which part,
I don't buy that, but I'll give you this.
well, which part don't you buy that?
Well, the idea that most of the people who owned enslaved Africans were the small hats. Were they involved? Sure. But you got to remember this critical piece, and we should discuss this.
Yeah.
To black people, you're all white, right?
Exactly.
to black people, you're all white. And what I mean by that is, so you're white, and the Z's are also white to us.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what we'd have to ask ourselves right now, and I think it's worth having the conversation, is differentiate you as a white person from a Jew.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and I'll give you an example. Like, I'll differentiate you as a white person from me as a black person.
Yeah.
So, and I'm going to formalize this so I can get really scientific with my racism. So just give me a little bit of time. I'm going to get this stuff together.
Okay.
But approximately, I'll say you are not black if, when you smile, your upper lip disappears, right? So like I smile, you still see my upper lip.
Absolutely.
I'm black. Yeah. You have tightly coiled hair generally. Your hair is black in coloration generally, and your skin color is like this color or darker, right? like this color or darker. So if you have 2 out of 3 of those, I'll say you're black, right? So if you have the upper lip, the coloration, and the tightly coiled hair, all 3, you're definitely black. If you got 2 out of 3, I'll give you black. But any less than that, you're not black. You're something else.
Yeah.
All right, so I've just defined what it is to be black on a racial level. So now tell me what it is to be white versus being, say, like the person we call Jewish.
Yeah. So, and here's the thing, because it's that's huge. And I'm glad that you pointed that out, because, the small hats, like, they claim to be white when they're amongst other white people, or when it's to or especially if it's to cause any sort of division, or to bring up, like, past atrocities committed. But once they are around their own people, they're extremely offended to be called white, and they will stop you dead in your tracks and say, no, hold on, we are not white, we're the small hats, right? Mm-hmm. So I feel like they only cater to that, or accept being called white when it benefits them, or or if it benefits the agenda that they're trying to push forward. But in a closed door setting, they do not want to be called white. They've always considered the Aryan race as their opposition since the burning of the destruction of the temple, and since Rome. So I feel like that's kind of like, they fit that race when it's beneficial, but at the end of the day, they do not want to be called white. So I think to be white, you have European descent, and honestly, that's really all that I can think of. Fair skin, but even that varies so widely amongst our race. Just like it does with you guys. Like, we have extremely white, and then we have those who, have a little melanin.
Well, I'm trying to kick some folks out. Like, some people are like, I'm not letting them stay in anymore. Obama, we're giving to you. Because if you look at his skin, he's pretty
we can't
light.
take him.
Yeah, he's pretty light, and his upper lip, I don't think it's there. I'm gonna take a second look at it. But so, for example, Benjamin Netanyahu, He's
Oh man.
Polish, right? He's Polish and he has fair skin. So is he white?
Oh gosh, dude. I would like to remove him as well. From,
On what basis? On what basis?
he's demon. He's a monster.
No, he's definitely a monster. I mean,
He's
I'd
a-
take him on my side if we could get him. He's pretty effective.
yeah,
Yeah,
and
no,
he's got the inside scoop on things to come.
yeah, no,
You
he's
know,
very effective. He's crafty. But why is he not white if he is Polish, which is certainly a European country? I do business there.
yeah. No,
Very
he is
pleasant
white.
people. He is white.
He is white. He
Okay,
is white.
fair enough.
But and he claims to be a tiny hat, but I honestly don't think he's even that. I don't think what ethnically, no, right? Because he's Polish and speaking religiously, I don't think he really is either. Because we are warned about these types of people that claim to be Jays but are not Jays. They're truly the synagogue of Satan. I think those are the people that he was trying to point out in that scripture.
Okay, fair enough. So, would you say that a good number of persons who claim to be the Z's or the J's are actually is just a ethnicity or a religious group or a belief system as opposed to anything else?
I think, yeah, I think they definitely try to attach themselves to that
Mm-hmm.
for their political agenda, but I don't think they. I mean, I'm fairly positive he does not follow any of the uh, laws or religious beliefs that those guys withhold. And then there's because I'm still trying to figure all this out, like the difference between those who just follow the Torah, which is just the first 5 chapters in the Bible, and those who are Talmudic, like Ben Shapiro and all these types of guys, because there is a difference, right, between those, because the Talmudic Jays are, those are the types of people that scare me, that I feel like are a major threat to this country and to our world in a whole. And what they say, what is it, 70 to 80% of Jays are Zionists, right? But not all Zionists are Jays. Some of them, are Christian. Some of them
Right.
are, a lot of them are actually atheists. And that's where I also become confused is a lot of Jays are actually atheists.
Oh, absolutely,
Which is
especially the ones in Israel.
yeah, which is how does that work? If you're so are we just speaking ethnically then? But then if you were to dissect their DNA, a lot of them, there's no way they're coming from the tribe of Abraham. A lot of them are European, like you've pointed out in one of your videos I was just watching. A lot of them are just European. So how do they tie themselves to that? And if they're atheists and they come from Europe, where do they get that title, or that identity rather?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I think we agree there. I think we damn sure agree there. Okay, very good. Let me read your initial message to make sure we can address all of the items. Excuse the cough. I got one of those, diseases that the government created in a lab.
Get your ivermectin, brother.
Right?
Get your ivermectin.
So in terms of Nerd Fuentes gaining popularity, you bring up some interesting points, and in an attempt to empathize with the white man in America today, or the white young man. I think it's there's two sides of it. There's one, the side that theoretically you should be benefiting from the proceeds of slavery generationally. Then secondly, of course, you would benefit from the institutions that your ancestors erected. And this is one thing I always tell black folks when they say white privilege. I'm like, well, this makes perfect sense. I mean, if you're in a country and it was organized by white folks, they're going to make sure that they're advantaged in that government. I mean, that makes perfect sense. That's what humans do. It's called self-interest. So I think the concept of white privilege is bizarre to think that's problematic. I mean, like, you need to go get yourself some privilege instead of complaining about what you think others have. Then you have the whites who are poor, which I didn't see any of them until I got to Michigan for the northern Michigan, and then I got to Kentucky, and I remember seeing my first poor whites because California doesn't really have poor whites. That's not a thing, but
Right.
Kentucky has some poor whites, and I was like, holy shit! I
Yeah.
didn't, I
Yeah.
didn't even know you guys were poor. I
Mhm.
say that to say this. Now, if I was a poor white and people were telling me I have white privilege, I'd be mad as shit. Oh, I'd be madder than a
I'm one of
bitch.
them. I'm one of them.
Yeah, I'd be mad as hell
Yeah.
because you're suffering the aftermath and fallout from something that happened in the past that you don't feel the benefits of today. Now, do you have advantages in the society? For sure, because you're the majority. It'll always be there.
Mhm.
Do I think that when you have more power, you like people can talk about you openly? Yeah, because it's like it's ineffective. It's just kind of like women can punch men, and we don't think much of it because they're weak. But if
Mhm.
men punch women, then people are like, oh God, this guy's the worst, right?
Mhm.
There's consequences, and this is similarly why theoretically, if we both go out in public and I say like the whites, like for example, I was on a flight tonight coming to Savannah, leaving Atlanta, and it was just all a bunch of whites. And I turned to the young lady, I say, is Savannah a white town? I was like, the whole damn plane is white because we're
Mhm.
leaving Atlanta, right, which is known for being a black
Sure.
city. Now, if let's say there was all black people on the plane and I was a white guy, and I turned, I say, yo, is such and
Mhm.
such a black city?
Yeah.
People kind of like, yo, what the? And that's because the whites have power, so you can strike at power if you're in the weak position. But if you're in the strong position and you're punching down, then people are going to look down on you. So I say that to say this: my one, there has to be some realization that like you're in the strong position collectively. You as an individual might be not as well off, but collectively you're in the strong position.
Mhm.
So you don't get to punch down, but people do get to punch up. It's a small thing to a boss. But we do need to fix things, or else we're all going to suffer. And I think right now, everyone's house is out of order. Everyone's women are out of control. But the chief devil is the liberal white woman, and
Right.
she's only been let out of the cage because of the weakness of the white man. I yield the floor.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. I would say white liberal women are. I mean, this whole thing that just happened in Minnesota, it's just it baffles me whether you believe his response to him getting ran into was just or not. I personally look at the loss of any life as an atrocity. But it's like you have a white liberal woman fighting for um, someone who probably wouldn't piss on you if you were on fire to put out that fire. A lot of them are extremely openly racist towards white people. And these white liberal women, they just cause so many problems, and they're so outspoken, and and they're fueled with self-hatred, which to me, I can't fathom it. They talk about themselves as these monsters, like they have that white guilt that which is another thing with Nick Fuentes. I was like, I want to see the death of that white guilt. I don't want my nieces and nephews to feel ashamed for being born white. So, and getting back to like the white privilege idea, like for me, I grew up in a single parent household in North Idaho, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking, the trailer parks, the apartments, watching my mom work two, three jobs while going to school to make ends meet. And like I
Mm-hmm.
grew up in poverty,
Mm-hmm.
and and I didn't get the best treatment from police either, because Idaho is I mean, it's a cop state, it's a police state, and they go after people, like especially drug users,
Uh-huh.
uh, and you know, um, people like that. They go after them so heavily. So I mean, I've been on papers on probation, and I dealt with a great deal of incarceration and so on and so forth. But I mean, since I was 14 years old,
When you
and
say they go after drug users, are you suggesting that you were a drug user?
I'm sober now, but yes, I dealt with a good deal of. I battled with addiction quite heavily
Oh
throughout.
well, congratulations, man. That's a beautiful thing. That's something that I'm just so against is the way drugs and addiction and alcoholism are eating up our people,
Man,
and
so bad. So,
right, and that's one of the things that we have to deal with. Like all this other BS on, who hates who and all that other nonsense. No, no. We have to stop the things that are eating us alive, eating ourselves. But go
mm,
ahead. I don't want to interrupt you. Go ahead.
yeah, and so when the term white privilege came about, I was, dude, as you can imagine, I was furiated by it, and I'm falling. I'm getting rage baited by people online. I'm lashing, dude. It's getting the best of me, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So that like infuriated me, but I can see where they're coming from in a sense, like um, I feel like with as being a white man in today's society, or especially going back a little further, um, maybe you're less likely to get a job, in a restaurant that caters to a lot of white people, or when you get pulled over by the police, you have this preconceived notion that they're gonna go after you even harder, and violate your rights, and like these black communities, do have some extreme disadvantages as well. But I feel like also at the same time, I feel like a lot of it has to deal with the culture, like um, the amount of the glorification of violence and selling drugs and all these. It gets so glorified within culture, especially even with poor whites. I mean, living in the types of places I lived in, these things were also glorified. But I think culturally, that's extremely detrimental to a race, and we have our things within the white community as well that are detrimental to our own people. And sorry, I'm kind of getting a
No,
little
I'm just taking some notes here. This is good.
all over the place, but so yeah, so like just the term white privilege, struck me. I personally disliked it quite a bit, but they have their own experiences, right? So I have to be empathetic towards experience that I haven't lived, right?
Yeah.
But it's like with this whole white nationalist movement, that's what I'm saying. Like it does us no good to fight. It does us no good. That's playing into what they want. They want you and I to go after our differences, whether it be culturally or whatever. They want us to battle, and because that keeps us distracted from what they're pushing, right? So there's got to be a way to like people. White people do need to be proud of, or have some pride within their own race, and I don't think it's racist to say, you want your children to resemble you. I mean, if you were just to like Google white mothers right now, have you done that before? Google white mothers and you'll see it's all white women with a different race. And then you
Wait,
Google
wait.
black
Let me let
mothers
me let me
and it's
Google
all it's a
this.
black woman with a black man,
We're
so
we're about to Google this right now. Let
yeah,
me just
Google it,
pull up
dude. So
Google
they
right
like
now.
they push it so hard amongst my people
Okay, so
for us to
white
be
white mothers.
white mothers.
Let me pull this up real quick.
Yeah.
And I think this is an interesting conversation because I want to define a reasonable white nationalist agenda that's coherent. And I think we're getting to some good points here. Anyways, so I just Google white mothers. I'm
Yeah.
going to
Go to
click
the
images.
images.
Okay. All right.
You see what I'm
So,
saying?
all right, listen, this is what we're going to do. We're going to take some data here because I'm a data focused person. We're going to take some data.
Please,
All right. So this is what
please.
we're going to do. So we got 3 rows of images. Our faces are blocking the bottom row. So we're just going to deal with the first 2 rows. Okay.
Okay, okay.
All right. So we have the first one. There are no white people in there.
No,
Okay. All right. We agree. All right. So that didn't even count. So we have a white mother with is that a white woman? Would you say?
that's a white woman, and it
Okay.
looks
All right.
like
So you got one white woman, two white women, and this the kids. Would you say this kid appears to be not white?
Yeah, mixed. And same with the
Okay.
second image as
So
well.
this
Those
is
two children are mixed as well because you can tell by the hair, even though they are light skinned.
yeah. So these two white women, mixed kids. Is this a mixed kid?
No,
Let's say
that's
white
not.
kid.
But
Okay.
it is
So we'll
looks like
say that's
lesbians with the
no,
colored.
no, no, that's the old woman. Oh, I
Oh,
think that's her mom. Okay, so we'll say 2 out of 3 have been mixed.
uh,
This I don't think that's like her daughter. I think it just happens to be. Okay, so now we have 3 out of 4. Wait, that's a black kid, so I don't think that's adoptive family. So this is about adopting. White people do adopt black Africans. This is another adoption thing. This is a mixed couple. Um, this appears to be a mixed kid. That's adoption. I feel like I see what you're talking about. I feel like
mhm.
it's here.
Yeah.
So now let's type in black mothers.
Mm.
Okay, so that baby looks a little bit white to me, so that looks like a mixed one. That looks appropriate. This looks like a reflection of what she is, but that's barely black to me. That baby looks pretty white. Um, that baby looks whiter than her. That's weird. Um, eh, eh. It could be the same thing, but the difference is when the mom's white, you can tell that the kid is definitely mixed. Whereas when the mom's black, you don't know if the kid is mixed or just plain black. So I'm gonna give you credit for what you were saying. I'm gonna say that made sense.
Mm.
And
And
so one of your items is now who cares about what people say, right? Like
right.
people say all kinds of stuff, but is the actual agenda saying the whites need to stick with the whites?
Do I think that's no? So what I think the agenda is, and like, if you can, it's so openly now like discussed. I've seen it with many politicians, and especially at like the World Economic Forum. And I heard you touch on it a little bit on the Jake Shields podcast, and I was actually I think that's kind of like where I left off. Is there is this constant open dialogue about how they need to like they call it, what do they call it, browning out the European countries. They talk about it like Larry Fink has spoken on it,
Okay.
just like the browning out of the United States of America and Europe by bringing in a lot of these immigrants,
Mm-hmm.
because not only are they going to outbreed us, but they want white women to you know to reproduce
Miscegenate.
with a lot of
Non-whites.
people of color, right?
Yeah. Okay.
And then you could go into, there's a whole, I was actually just watching a lot of these videos on different rabbis speaking about it, and they talk
No
about
kidding.
I swear,
Okay.
openly, and they say that's why they're bringing in the immigration, is because they want to brown out America, and they want to brown out the Europe. So like there is like this deliberate plan to rid the world of the white race. And then when they were talking about why they want to do this, is because they said the Aryan race is their biggest threat to complete world domination and to
The
complete
Jays, you're saying.
yes,
Okay.
yes,
Interesting.
yeah. So they talk about it very openly, and it's scary because like we can look at what's going on in Europe right now, and that's exactly what's happening. They're pushing out all those who are native to that land, speaking, of white Europeans, and turning it into a different identity. And when you start to do that, you lose the identity of that nation that once made it special. And I'm not saying no diversity, we don't want that whatsoever, but there needs to be there needs to be important to try to preserve our white race, because we have gone from, I think in 1940s, the entire population of the world, which was at that time, I think 6 billion or something like that. And it went from 30 something percent down to where it's at now. And we only make up 7% of the entire population on the planet. So in that sense, we've been diminished quite a bit. And a lot of this is done through things like the LGBTQ movement and immigration, because they want to see the destruction of the white race. Because, like I said, we, ever since the destruction of that temple and since Rome, that has been one of their main missions. Also, it's to pin, and that's why you see like a lot of Benjamin Netanyahu coming into these hearings where he's talking about, pulling us into different wars for them, and where was that? Pulling us into all these different conflicts around the globe, because they want to pit Christians and Muslims against one another. When, I don't know, are you Christian? Or
I
you
don't
said
do
you're all religions, right? You embody.
Yeah, I try to stay away from the religious
Sure.
discussions. They tend to be divisive.
Yeah, and I'm not religious, but I do want to live in a Christian nation, because I feel like it aligns more so with Western society. If we turned our entire country into like what they've done to the UK, where it's all Muslims, it's destructive. The country is not what it once was before because of it. But they speak about that. They said the biggest threat to the small hats is if Christians and Muslims were to come together. Like
Okay, so
that is the biggest
you
threat.
said a lot. Let's rewind back,
Sure.
and let's deal with. So one thing I will say with regards to the whites, I am partial to redheads. The women, the guys, I don't know about. I'm not sold on them, but the redhead women are a unique form of gorgeous, and there's not many of them. So I'd like to see the redheads continue procreating with the redheads. I was just in Ireland. I didn't catch many of them.
Yeah.
So we need the redheads to stick with the redheads. The other whites, I don't feel strongly about. They do whatever they want to do. But with regards to whites procreating, right? So there's the piece on, there's three big things that impact the white population that you described. There's the LGBTQ, which is a scourge to all of the peoples of the earth.
Man.
Then you mentioned there's interracial procreation, and then there's the low fertility rate among whites. So a white man and woman get together and just don't have kids, or they have few kids. And the thing that is easiest to control immediately from a cultural standpoint is the procreation of whites together with whites. So I would ask, what's your thinking on that piece?
I think there definitely needs to be more of an attempt to try to preserve um, whites with whites reproducing. I think that is something that we need more of, absolutely, because this country is not going to look anything like what this country once was 20 years ago, and it's already changing drastically, especially with all the immigration, right? And that's not me being racist. It's just I want my people to survive, right? And I know that there's this deliberate attempt to go against that and to destroy the white race. So I think now more than ever, it's important for us to align. And I'm not saying anything crazy like white supremacy, where you got to hate all other races. But I think to preserve us as a people, there needs to be more of an attempt, and we do need to reproduce more. And I'm a part of that problem because I'm 33 years old and I have no children.
Right.
Thank God I didn't have any children during my 20s, because I would have been a horrible father dealing with my own addiction and incarceration, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I just think it's something that needs to be talked about more. And, people to, once again, like, be proud of your race. Like, nobody bats an eye if you say black pride or black power, but as soon as you throw a white in front of that, you are labeled racist right off the get-go,
Well,
without.
that should make sense to you, because there are no black power organizations that have systematically murdered other groups of humans based on race. Whereas when you say white power, the organizations that come to mind would be the
KKK.
the Nazis, the Ku Klux
Yeah.
Klan, right? And when the whites get together and say that they have pride or what have you, they tend to be violent and hateful, and there's a long track record, and you don't
Mm.
find any comparable group of non-whites. In fact, even the ones they portray as hateful or violent, like say the Black Panther Party, they have no record of violence. And in fact, the opposite is true. The police murdered many of them. Some of them were killed in their sleep, literally while they're in bed, in their early 20s. So we know that when you say Black Power, you don't mean white death. Conversely, when you say white power, you mean Black death. I yield the floor to you.
Because that term is it's when you say things like that, people's mind goes to the KKK or the American Nazi Association and things like that. So I'd ask you, what would be a better way of aligning or empowering rather the white race without there being cues of it referring to some sort of racist past where people were harmed? Like,
I think that's a good question.
how do you
So,
navigate that?
as a
Right?
white nationalist, my big focus is to increase production of white children, and so that's why one, I have to define, well, what is it to actually be white? For me, I'm into the purity. So like Nerd Fuentes, he doesn't count because he has Latino blood and he's also very short. And the best of us Europeans were tall, striking figures. And so I want to make sure that phenotypically we embody a certain aesthetic, which Nick Fuentes does not embody. So that's number one, identify what we actually are. And then number two, we have to procreate in great numbers. And that means that like individuals like you're failing right now. You need to get to work. And then and that's the practical things that really no one else can stop us from. The immigration stuff, the other stuff, those are things to work on. But those are things that we can't fix today. Like literally, if you wanted to fix this within a week, I'm sure you can find some white woman and impregnate her this week. Whether you stick around and take care of the kid or not, you've still moved the needle in the right direction. And so the challenge for me as a leader is seeing when the people complain about things that are within their control, but they're not doing anything. I yield the floor.
Right. Yeah. I heard you. I heard you say that, and I totally understand that as well. So I'm trying to think how would so with white. See, and that's the thing. We have to like kind of tiptoe. We have to kind of toe the line so carefully just to make sure we don't come off as racist.
No, listen, I've never said don't be racist. I said don't use racial slurs.
Right.
So if you are racist, that's what you are. Like, don't lie.
Right.
I'm saying don't use racial slurs.
No. I'm not talking about like for this right here. I'm just speaking like if you were to try to push this amongst the community, it's like how to do that in a safe way to where,
Well, it is racist. I mean, that's the thing is we don't have to lie about what it is. It is racist and it is what it is. But the key is that it doesn't have to be dangerous to other people, right? There's nothing wrong, or I shouldn't say there's nothing wrong, but it is what it is. If you say, hey, I'm a blonde white guy with blue eyes and I want my kids to have blonde hair and blue eyes, it's a recessive trait. So for us to recreate a recessive trait, I have to procreate with other people who share the same recessive trait. Otherwise, it's going to be lost. That's what I want. So I am going to take the actions. And like, for example, do you consider Nick Nerd Fuentes white?
See, that's the thing. Like what you were pointing out earlier is he looks white,
Ish.
but his heritage. What is he? He's Mexican, right?
Yeah, Mexican and something else. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like he's not fully white, but going off of appearance, I'd say he resembles a white man. So I mean, I would say I would say he's white.
Now I have to kick you out of the white nationalist movement. Now I got to kick you out. You're not white enough. Now let me ask you this: did you get your white consciousness, if you will, while you're
Okay.
incarcerated?
Uh, you know what? I'm gonna be honest with you. It started there.
Yeah.
It absolutely started there. So when I go to county, when I've gone through county jail, so we in North Idaho we have 3 different pods.
Mm-hmm.
So you have in pod, which is mixed, and it's mostly natives, blacks, and white people and Hispanics, and then you have O pod, which is largely Hispanic and black with a few whites. Which I've been through all those pods. And then there's a third pod, and it's called Nora pod, or a lot of people call it the Nazi pod because it's the N pod, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just being honest, dude. The Nora pod, it is full of a lot of low IQ racism, a lot of low IQ racism.
Sure.
You know, just hate, pure hatred, just for the color of someone's skin, which I can't get behind. I can never hate someone purely off the color of their skin. It's your character and how you treat others.
Okay.
And but I've gone through all those other pods, and each time I've gone in those pod, it was so much more drama, so much more violent, and just a complete disregard for other people around them. And
You're saying the non-Nora pods.
correct.
Okay.
And that's just being honest. And so I did start going to the Nora pod just because when I was there, you know, I stopped having things stolen from me. It was way less violent. The structure was way better, you know, because there's a quiet time from 10 o'clock at night till 10 o'clock in the morning. Because if you're able, sleep is extremely important when you're locked up because that's time traveling. And when you're doing time, you want to take advantage of sleep when you can get it.
Mm-hmm.
So I started going to the Norapod because of those things right there. It was just more organized and just more respectful all around. And I don't know if I would say, but it definitely brought awareness to me. And because all races are different, you know, on some level.
Yeah.
On some level, there is differences amongst races. And but I wouldn't. It did kind of open my eyes up to certain things in that system. And then when you go into prison, you know, obviously you're clicking up with your race, right? But what really got me going down this path would be honestly, and it's sad to say, a lot of just what you see on the news and social media. And
Oh, come on, Chad.
I know, brother. I know, but and it was in a way where it was like I seen my race being demonized on so many different levels is what put me on that path because I'm like, we're so openly hated, you know, or demonized over our color of skin when, you know, I never owned a slave, you know, and none of the people I know ever owned a slave. Right?
If I was selling one, would you buy one?
How much?
I know. They're pretty expensive out here. I think it was like buying cars is what I understand. Pretty expensive. Okay. By the way, folks watching, send in your comments, questions right here. This is a meaningful conversation. Let me address some of the folks who've sent it in. And please do. We'll make sure that we remember to include your comments, questions. Let's see who we have. Shout out to Dominic writes, "Peace of the Saints, tuition here to learn." Oh, absolutely. And this is a good conversation. And I think it's more thoughtful than the silly things you hear from, you know, folks, agitators like Nerd Fuentes. Shout out to Andre writes, "Tuition." And I also acknowledge via Constantine comes in via Venmo, supporting the work. Appreciate you. Okay, folks, if you have any other comments, questions, do send them in. Send in your Ties tuition. Now,
is this on your Instagram going right now too?
This is on Kick right now. And so what we do is we take it off a kick and then we'll repost it on YouTube. So this one will probably premiere it tomorrow, say probably around like 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And so if you like, I'll give you the link for that. And I think you'll learn a lot looking at the comments. I always learn a lot of what people's sentiment is looking at the comments, because truth be told, I live in the slave holding South. I live down the street there's no streets. I live on dirt roads. So I live down a dirt road from a Confederate cemetery. And there's a big Confederate flag hanging, and they keep that damn place pristine. And when I go into the gun store, there's a big, huge Confederate flag. So I live in the slave holding South.
How does that make you feel seeing that?
The Confederate flag?
Yeah, does it bother you?
It doesn't bother me. I view it as a flag of traitors. It's the flag of a fallen army. Essentially, what made them traitors is not necessarily that they went to war. The country went to war with itself, but their side lost. So if your side loses and you're still flying the flag of the side that went to war with the current flag that's dominating, you are traitors. So I think that, if I were running America, there would be no other flags here. There would be no LGBTQ flag. There'd be no Confederate flag. There'd be no flags. And if for some reason we had an international building that had the flags of other nations, they would all be like 2 meters lower. And any country that I dominate, I'm also putting up the American flag higher than their flag because you're a vassal state. But me, unlike, say, the Donald, if I'm going to spend the taxpayer money to conquer Venezuela, Libya, Afghanistan, Syria, Yemen, etc., I'm writing everybody checks. All of my citizens, I'm bringing the booty back to the empire, which is to say, you finance the weapons. We went and conquered these people. We stole their stuff. We stole their oil. We stole their land. And here's your dividend for participating in this place called America. You're at the center of the empire. And I'd take over Canada because they're weak. I'd take Greenland ASAP. I'd give them no voting rights because those are liberal places. Like Canadians are liberals. I don't want them voting. And then I'd feed the empire. I'd also enforce education. The problem with white males today is that they're dumb and incompetent. Like they are what they're accusing the others of being. Like the ones that are very racist are like, hey, you guys are chimping out. It's like, yes, but you guys are monkeys as well, unfortunately, which is to say that you're not well educated. You're not high skill. And that's a failing of the government. Me, I live in the slaveholding South. A lot of these folks are very rural, but these white guys are way better than most of the white guys you'll see in the rest of America, because these mofos, they might be missing teeth. They might not speak the best English, but I tell you what, you have two of these rascals come over here, man. They'll fix up a water system. They'll install solar. They'll do some electrical, all of that. One guy, like the nigga could do anything you ask him to do. Those are real skills.
Car breaks down, man. You call one of them.
Yeah. And low key, and if your car breaks down, like someone will stop and like help you. They'll stop and help you.
They'll get out to push your car.
Yeah, they'll stop and
help traffic.
Yeah. But if you find a white guy in California, a white guy in Florida or New York, of all places, these people are imbeciles. They have no skills. They have all their teeth and they look pretty, but they have no skills. They're not really men. And that's what we have to change in the country for all of the races. But
why
anyways,
do you think that is? Do you think that's from because the father has been taken out of the household, or if you do have your father, a lot of these households, both parents now have to work in order to make ends meet. So why do you think it is that we are losing our ability to do, like things like more handyman things like around the house or, vehicle wise? Why do you think there is a diminishing that?
Well, listen, I can't do half the things that I named, and I don't want to because I earn more money doing more sophisticated things. But most people can't do the things I can do. So it's like, if you can't do that, then you should be able to, fix a septic system. The reason is because the matriarchy has taken over. And it's the effort of the female. The female's always struggling against the male. Even if you don't believe in the Bible, Eve was struggling against Adam. She wanted to take Adam's position. She wanted to lead Adam. She wants to make Adam into the woman so she could be the man. And in the female taking dominance in the society, it pushes the white male out. So the white male has to compete with the white female for employment, just as we all do. And all of these things upset what I call the natural order. And when the natural order is upset, everything goes left. You see, naturally women are not going to lead us to morality, principle, discipline, and order. And having them at the helm has caused destruction for all of the races. And so, what I would say, step one, if you want to revive any people, is to get real men in control, real men, and then get women back in the homes. I yield the floor.
Yeah, and I'm glad you touched on that because the whole women empowerment movement was funded and created by the bankers, the Rothschild family, and it was to get the women out of the house it was to take them out of, you know, being there for the children. So now the children are being brought up and raised throughout the school system, which they also have control over that. But it was funded by the bankers because instead of just taxing the father who's bringing in the paycheck, now they're able to tax both parents of the household. But that was a very deliberate move to remove the mother from that house. So I think in order for us to get that back, and you can see now, like a lot of these women do not want to have children. They
Right.
they, they
That's right.
want to they want to be out there competing with men in
That's
in
right.
the workforce.
That's right.
So that was a move that was pushed for an agenda. And in order for us to get back to that, the where the wife stays at home and parents the children, so they're not becoming overly indoctrinated throughout the school system, um, there has to be a major upset or reset in the work community because I mean, a lot of these kids and even myself, it's looking at buying a home that takes a lot more money than what it once had
That's right.
what it took to purchase a home, with prices going up and the income staying the same, that's problematic. So to get back in to where we were with that, that's economically a big challenge, but men have to be more leaders. We have to be, we have to be able to lead and to provide. So I think there's going to be some serious hurdles for us to get back to that, but absolutely that is, that's important for us.
Yeah, and it starts with education, and one thing I do need to hurry up and do is produce a white nationalist children's book, because it really starts with the girls and the boys and the things that they know to be important. And one thing I teach is that a female's purpose on earth is to be a part of a family and to find all of her joys through family life, whether it's as a wife or a mother and or a mother. And so that has to be number one. And you talk about the price of housing. More housing is needed when people are all living separately, right? So instead of a woman going from her father's house to her husband's house, she goes to her own house. So that increases demand for housing. And when you have demand for housing so much higher, then the price of housing can go up higher as well. So if we reduced women living on their own, you'd reduce the demand for housing, thereby reducing the price of housing. But there's a lot of things in the financial system that need to be fixed. So, but in terms of my white nationalist agenda, I say number one, educating the girls and the boys as to the purpose of life. And number two, we have to redefine what a man is in the household. We can't say that a man is necessarily a provider. He is a leader. Even if the woman has the higher income,
Yeah.
or the man has no income, or whatever the case, he's the leader. It's naturally ordained. That is the way it was meant to be, whether you're looking at it religiously or just scientifically. So that's number one, is defining that. And then the other piece is, when people get power, they don't give it up easily. So we have to take power out of the hands of women. And so my question to you is, what do you think is the methodology to go about that?
To create stronger leaders amongst men. I think we have to completely restructure our values as men, or not so much our values, but like our how would I want to say this? to create stronger men, I mean, shoot, I mean, I think a lot of it has to deal with not only have women started to remove themselves, they don't value that marriage the way they once had. They don't pursue that family life like they once had. They all want to be boss bitches or whatever. So there's got to be a shift in overall mindset for men and women. So I love the idea for a book for the white nationalist movement, but there has to be a major shift in mindset amongst men and women. And to create stronger men, I mean, how do you do that when you have a society with so many weak men that are just getting walked all over in these relationships and not valuing themselves and not loving themselves enough, to be the men that they need to be. So, man, that's a tough one. I really don't know how you would go about creating these stronger men. This is something that I'm dealing with myself and trying to become the man that I want to be, after having struggled with addiction and not having a male role model in my life, which I think right there may lie the answer, is having men need to have role models. I don't care how old you are, you need to have role models, and you need to surround yourself with men that that you could look up to, that you can learn something from, which is something that I think that you offer on your platform to a lot of men. So I think not only finding these other men to be mentored from, but then going back and applying what you're learning to your everyday life, because I feel like we're getting so caught up in our 9 to 5. We're not really looking ahead and for ways to better ourselves within that, because we're becoming so overwhelmed with just making ends meet right now. So you have to be creating a higher value, because we need to be high valued men, to have the life that we want, or to have even the wife that we want. So continuing to set goals and continuing to find ways to better yourself, and even not speaking on a religious term, but I think there is great value and importance in having a higher power, whatever that higher power may look, something to have as the foundation for yourself, and finding that. But so yeah, I'd say role models and a network of men that are going to hold you to a higher standard and help you hold yourself more accountable to become that version of yourself that you need to be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that makes sense. What would you say for you has been the challenge to finding a proper white woman?
The challenge for me, honestly, I'd say, especially being sober now, is because, dude, I used to, I was always out partying, and, it's easy to find women, when you're out drinking, and, you're less, you're more confident, obviously, because you're drinking, having fun, to approach women. So for me, a challenge right now has been finding a place where I can meet these women. I just went on a date last week, because I just got out of a relationship with someone who I still love, greatly. Mm-hmm. So, but I met her out at the bar. So I was like, dude, last week I had to put myself in a position. I was like, dude, I need to make sure that I'm still able to pull a good woman without the alcohol. Even if you're going to get denied, I need to get into the routine of shooting these shots, because you miss 100% of the ones you don't take. Right.
Yeah.
So I got a number of one of the models at one of the other booths. I work in conventions. Right. Okay. So, so yeah, dude, I went up there and, and I approached her and, it worked out, got her number, got a little date. And when I head back to Vegas this next week, I got another date. But
Hey,
what's
be
whole,
careful in Vegas, my boy.
I know. But so, so a lot of it for me is like, I'm still working on myself in a lot of different ways because I don't feel like I'm where I need to be quite yet in order for me to be able to provide and lead, because I still see I have a lot more growth that I need to undergo before I find that woman that is perfect for me, because as your value does go up as a man, that opens new doors for a different caliber of woman, right? So yeah,
What's your height?
I'm 6'2".
6'2". Okay, now listen here, white guy. Okay, you paying attention? You pay attention right now. All right.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Okay,
sir.
you're the Aryan white man, and you're 6'2". I listen, buddy. Listen. Here's the funny thing about being a guy. We all are completely deluded into thinking the other guy's doing, like, the other guy's making a killing, right? Like the white guys think the black guys are making a killing. The black guys think the white guys are making a killing. The rich guys think that the guy with the big penis is making a killing. The guy with the big schlong thinks that the rich guys are making a killing. You're 6'2", you're white. The majority of the country is white. There's no reason you should not be in it should be utter slaughter fest. I'm trying to figure out why you're not like, Marquett, listen, I got to end this meeting early because I got 3 of them at my door waiting outside. I won't let them inside. Bro, what's going on, man? I need an explanation. I really do.
Man, I think what it honestly boils down to is, I think it's just, financially, dude. I feel financially, I'm not where I need to be yet, and I have a good paying job, but I think it needs. I need to be taken to that next level. I need to push myself to get to that next level. Like, don't get me wrong, dude. I have options. I have women, but are they women that I would want to marry and have a family with? I haven't met too many of those as of recently.
Bro, you need some of this ism, my boy. You need some of this ism. Here's the thing. Now, white women are doing pretty well financially. You're in a good position being a 6'2" white guy. You have access to like a lot of range economically. And let me give you some unsolicited advice. I really do mean this, Chad. Number one, most of the great things in life you need to do before you're ready. I'm going to say that one more time. Most of the great things in life you need to do before you're ready. You need to take an attempt before you think you're ready. And number two, you're not young, and you need to have multiple kids. So you're I'm not saying you're old, but I'm just saying you're not young.
Absolutely.
And number three, and I just made a song. I'm about to come out with a reggae album. Just side note to everyone, I'm coming out with a reggae album. Check it out. And one of the song that I just finished is about, money is infinite. And we don't need to worry when we don't have it, or if we lose it, or if we spend it, because it's infinite. But most importantly, the greatest value is you, and you'll always figure things out. And so I'm telling you that I know for sure, if you find a proper woman, which you can, it's within your wheelhouse. When you find the proper woman, a good enough woman, go ahead and procreate. You'll get your money on track. If you don't get it on track, you'll find a way to survive. And the key is through the struggle is how you conduct yourself, right? Being poor is what it is, but that doesn't mean you have to be negative. You have to complain. You have to talk crap. You have to beat your old lady. You have to make your kids stressed out. No, it just means you don't have a lot of spending money. That's all that means. And poor people are having kids every day. So I want to encourage you, because the game, now this is a black man's like bread and butter is the game. We got the game. This is what we have. This is where people's spirit and rhythm. I bless you with a little bit of this game right now. Go get yourself a nice white woman. She's making a better income than you. Go ahead and get her pregnant, and then just work your way up, man. And if you never work your way up, who cares? You got a girl who has a good income. Take care of your kids, raise them the way you want them to be, and carry on from there. But don't wait, man. And let me let you know something seriously. We may have incremental improvement, but we're mostly who we are. You don't
Yeah.
need to heal or grow or improve. You got off of fucking drugs. That's fantastic. Go get yourself an old lady, man. And go get one that's above the ones you're dealing with right now. Like women are always trying to date up. That's what I'm encouraging you to do. Go date up and
Yeah.
pop out these kids. I yield the floor.
Yeah, dude. And here's one thing I will say about, because I catastrophize a lot of this, dude, because bringing in children into this world in this day and age, dude, that scares me beyond, I mean, anything else, because I don't know. I have a hard time seeing what's going on in the Middle East, seeing their influence in our political system. Um, that really worries me. And then when when you start to go into their scripture and learn about um, their agenda, everything is right on course on their agenda. They're almost forcing this prophecy, and their prophecy is one final war. I think they call it Edom or something like that, where they take out all the other nations, by causing World War III, which I feel like, and dude, I was a big Trump supporter. I supported Trump, but at the end of the day, I feel once he got into office, I felt used
Oh yeah,
by
absolutely.
the Republican Party by the same way that they manipulate blacks. I feel like Trump manipulated the white people the same way the Democrats manipulate black people.
That's a good metaphor. That's a good
And
metaphor.
once he got into power, I realized, dude, he is the ultimate Z. He
Right, right,
he,
right.
he even converted, and he speaks about it now. Did you see that?
I didn't see that.
Bro, so it was at the Jewish something something uh, meeting where they all meet together, and it's a bunch of Z's and J's, and they're like, I would like to introduce the first
Oh, I saw that. I
J.
did say that. I did see that. Yeah.
You see that?
Yeah.
And then you find out that his daughter converted
Married one.
too,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
I'm aware of that.
he's now openly about it, and he is their puppet. He's signing off on all this money to go towards this genocide that's taking over. That's
You are waging the genocide, though. That's what. And again,
what do
you know,
you
you is you. Like, listen, it's you. So one
how so?
guy, shout to Hispanic Panic, he writes, just being 6'2" and white is enough to get a sugar mom. Like, for sure. But like, 1,000% I agree. 1,000%. And I want you to know that your black white nationalist brother, Marquett Burton,
Yeah,
has I've given you the game. Now you just have to apply it.
I
But
want to implement it.
I can tell you, similar to yourself, man, the sorrows of the world weigh heavily on me. I mean, even just this week, I felt like I couldn't even go live because I just feel like there's so much trouble in the world.
Man,
Shout out to Bob Marley. But that being the case, there's still so many beautiful things. We still have a great life. And when we focus on what really is going on in our individual, cocoon, you know, you have full control over go out, get you a nice little white sugar mama, get her pregnant, and carry on. Everything will work out. It always does work out. Your life has been doing this. This is what your life has been doing, sometimes slower than you would like, but
yeah,
this has been the trajectory. And I want to tell you this, and this is to all the peoples of the earth. You talk about, this is a tough world to have kids in. This is the way the world's always been. Remember, black people had kids during slavery. you know, so
yeah,
this is the way the world's always been. But one thing's for sure, if what you're saying, speaking of, is true, it may not be true, but if it is true and there is a war of nations, we're going to need more soldiers. So you probably better get after it.
hmm yeah, yeah. I mean, you're not wrong, bro. You're not wrong. It's just, yeah, dude. I fear just for my nieces and nephews in this world today. It weighs heavy on my heart. And if there's one good thing that has came from being aware of what's going on and kind of digging into it, is it has created a desire to live a life that's it's brought me closer to God. I'll say that. With all this evil going on, and I feel like Satan has really shown his face, and that's brought me closer to God. So that would be the one thing that I can take away from all this, is it's made me seek out a higher power and a relationship with a higher power, you know. So that is one good thing that has come from it. But yeah, man, you're right though. I need to get out there and definitely cast some more lines in different circles of people. A
My
sugar
boy,
mama would be
absolutely.
great. I could use a sugar mama right now.
Yeah, no, for sure. We all could. And your second born son, name him Marquett. Blonde, blue eyed kid, name him Marquett. Like you're named after a bald black guy.
Yeah.
Absolutely, man. And I'll come to, whatever the celebration is. Someone writes, I respect this guy for wanting to be as stable as possible before starting a family. That's not the way anymore. That's not the way. You got to go forward like a fearless lunatic. Now, here's a crazy one. Someone writes, he probably likes black women if we're being real.
Hey.
Does this man speaketh the trutheth?
I ain't against it. But if I want to have children that look like me,
right,
it probably won't reflect.
You ever been down with the brown? You ever taken some samples?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely, I have.
Now, here's the crazy thing, man. Now, I've never drank, smoked, or used drugs, but I know a lot of people who have. Now, your ability to do those things and still not have any kids is astounding to me, because last I knew, drunk people don't put on condoms. You just be drunk, you just be whiskey dicking the girl, just straight raw. Like, how'd you manage to?
Bro, I'm still trying to figure that out, how I have it, honestly. And I know my sperm count is good, so okay. I do not know, because my pullout game is weak.
Yeah, okay, fair enough.
Weak. So the fact that I've made it through without a child that's beyond me.
Do you what was I? There's a man, just slipped my mind. It just slipped my mind. It's been such a busy day. I've been all over the place, travel wise today.
And dude, the way that they are attacking our country, we are under attack through the drug epidemic. Without a doubt, this fentanyl business is, I mean, it's I know I've used this word quite a few times, but it is deliberately to defile the American people and weaken us for whatever reason. I'm not sure, but it's intentional. It's intentional. As soon as we pulled out of Iraq, because I'm an opiate addict, so that was my struggle. I struggled with everything, whether it be alcohol, opiates, coke. I've struggled with it all.
Anything addictive, okay.
Right. And it's funny though, because as soon as, like, when we were in Iraq, on the streets, it was heroin, right? As soon as we pulled out of Iraq, that's when you saw this influx of fentanyl. And fentanyl is, dude, it's the most dangerous thing out there in the entire world, drug wise. It's killing us by the hundreds of thousands annually. It's warfare, it really is. And I have a problem when people are when people actually are believing the narrative that we're in Venezuela to counter the war on drugs. It baffles me, because look at our border. It's right there. Yeah. We have a country right there that's bringing it in, and we're not doing nothing about it. We haven't invaded them. It comes down to the oil. And then when you look at the New World Order, right? It's all about establishing the central banks in all these different countries, right? Have you seen that post where it's like the list of the countries that are left that haven't had a central bank?
Yes.
And Venezuela is one of them. Knock that out. Now we just need North Korea and Iran, and we're already trying to.
What about China?
China has a central bank
run by the J's and Z's.
The Rothschild, yes. And then Rothschild, he came out as soon as Trump captured Maduro. I think, what's his name, Pat Rothschild or whatever. He's put out a tweet. Good job, Trump. So it's like, anytime you got a Rothschild cheering you on, dude, that concerns me, because that's what they need to implement the New World Order. Next, it's going to be digital ID, digital currency. And that's when we're really in trouble, because they're already trying to implement it in the UK which, dude, my heart goes out to those people in Europe because their country has been completely taken over. People are in jail for Facebook posts.
Yeah, that's wild over there. That is wild.
That's scary
Yeah,
because
that's
what
wild.
happens there is going to happen here next. And when, like I said, I listen to all these different rabbis talk about this, and it's what they're intentionally doing. This is all intentional to
Let me
push
acknowledge
it.
some of the folks supporting the work. Shout out to Andre comes in by Venmo. He writes 6'2", white, covered in tattoos. It's okay, buddy. Keep working on yourself.
You got a nice chat, dude. You got a nice chat. These guys are uplifting. I love it. I love it.
Yeah, no, these are honorable men, and we have a very functional culture that promotes prosperity and civility. And it's a culture that we're pushing around the world because, in my estimation, a lot of things are breaking down. Like ethnicity and race is breaking down, and what I mean by that is, say maybe 25 years ago, if I look at a black guy, I can have a sense of what he believes in. You know, now I don't have a clue. So, for example, you would have never heard like Lil Nas. Like there'd never be a gay rapper. That would never be a
Right.
concept 25 years ago. But now
Right.
it's been pushed into our culture.
Mhm.
Black people had the highest level of religiosity of any group in America. They're very much so against sexual deviance, and now they're largely victim of it. And white people, say 25 years ago, you didn't have as much single motherhood, and now it's spiking, and it's starting to emulate that in the black community. And we know single motherhood is very detrimental, and so we see all of humankind declining, and that's why there's certain things that we're pushing culturally to rebound humankind and to reestablish the natural order, which is to say moral men in leadership.
Mm. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, man. I'm hoping that we as a nation bounce back. I really do. I pray for it. And I hope that as a people that was the cool thing about seeing kind of people come together over the Palestine Israel conflict is you had people on the left and the right coming together on this one matter, which was awesome to see. And dude, you did a great job on that. The guy that you had on that you were talking, I think he was an IDF soldier, if I'm not
Oh
mistaken.
yeah, right.
Dude, I loved it.
I appreciate
Loved
it.
it, dude. You did great on that because there really is no argument to be made in order to support that. And the way you said is like you can't be a man and support that, and that's so true. I mean, that is a psychopath to promote that to justify what's going on over there. You have to be an absolute psychopath. So, shouts out to you on that one, man.
I appreciate that.
That was awesome to see.
Thank you. Absolutely.
And I'm glad I found your page, dude.
No, thank you. I appreciate the support. You guys are in a really interesting position. Oh, this is what I wanted to ask you earlier. Have you ever taken a DNA test?
No, I have not.
You should take one. I'd be curious to see what it comes out as because you have blue eyes. I can't really tell. I'm
Yeah,
looking at a
blue
green screen.
eyes, blonde hair, red beard. So,
Okay.
so I know Spaniard, German, and Irish. So a bit of a mutt.
Yeah.
That I know, but I would like to take a DNA test just to see exactly.
Yeah, I'd be curious to see as well. Let me know. Get back in touch with me when you take one and get the results. I'd be really fascinated to see the results of it. We're living in unique times. During the 1930s Germany, they didn't quite have DNA tests that could break it down like this, and I think it would have really probably broken apart a lot of their ideology. But there's no doubt that there are aspects of every person's or every group's culture that are admirable, and then there are some cultures that are just backward and dysfunctional. And there's nothing wrong with acknowledging that. The unfortunate thing, say for certain groups of whites, is that they're so disconnected from their former greatness. Same thing is true of blacks.
Hmm.
Like, for example, if you were to go to Italy today, you'd never know that these people were the Romans. Like, nah, hell, nah. Like, these people
Right.
have fallen badly. Same thing is true of whites today or Africans today. And there needs to be a resurgence of us striving for greatness. Anyways, as we wind down right now, is there anything you want to say to the people before we get out of here?
Anything to say to the people? Spread love, spread positivity, and continue to try to be a better person than you were yesterday.
You know what I'd like to do one day? This is what I should try to do. I want to get together like a group of white nationalists, and so we can just like talk shop about white nationalism and where we got to take this thing. That'd be cool if we get maybe 3 or 4 folks. If you have any buddies, let me know. We'll get on a call.
Yeah,
Maybe I can get Jake Shields to call in too, and see if we get a few more folks because I think that there's some meaningful pieces of the conversation to be had. So I'd like to get that group together.
you should set that up, dude. I would be extremely interested in that.
Yeah, me too. Me too. Okay, cool. I'll write it down. We'll get it done. All right. Well, thanks for tapping in, Chad. It's a pleasure to meet you. Until next time.
Absolutely, bro. Thank you. Hey, wait. Tell me real quick. How do I? I'm gonna take a pic real quick, brother. How do I find this? You said.
It'll be posted on YouTube on a YouTube channel called Marquett for Women. And I can also send you the link to it if you just shoot me a DM tomorrow afternoon.
Love it.